Ah, yes. The sweet, sweet sounds of the victory horns following the first UFC pay-per-view of 2024. And they sound for Dricus du Plessis, the new middleweight champion, and Raquel Pennington, the new women's bantamweight champion, as we welcome you to the never-ending UFC 297 coverage on this Saturday night, I guess, / early Sunday morning. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Mike Heck. Thank you for joining us, and we got a crew here. Of course, my bald brethren, the wise wordsmith himself, Shaun Al-Shatti, joins us. How are we doing, my friend?
We're doing good. A little tired. We're going to power through it. I don't know how you East Coasters are doing it, and especially you Europeans. I don't know how you guys do it all this time, but we're going to power through it. It's going to be a great time.
Yes, and the man who rated this card, 0 Michelin stars on paper. Do you spell vindication J-E-D, Jed Meshew?
South Africa! South Africa! That's right, that's Nelson Mandela, who I'm pretty sure would actually hate DDP. But who cares? Let's go South Africa. What a night, boys. What an evening. 2 new champions.
Yes, 2 new champions.
Trying to bring the energy, guys.
Hey,
I love it. I love it.
Look, Scotiabank Arena broke all sorts of records. They did record gates. We set the record for the longest watch party in the history of the watch parties with this card. But Shaun actually brought up a really interesting question before we went live. So I want to start with you, Jed, because as we mentioned before, Dricus du Plessis is the new middleweight champion of the world. And we'll get into, I guess, the big storyline and the big talking point in a little bit later on. But right now, DDP and Strickland, they have a very competitive fight. Both guys are battered. Both guys are bloody. In the end, DDP gets a nod via split decision. What is your biggest takeaway from this fight? What is the biggest takeaway from DDP's win over Sean Strickland?
That's a great question. We were talking about it before the show went live, and I jokingly said just punch real hard because that's the difference in the fight. I think if it would be a little more serious and try to really think about it, I think the answer is just that both of these dudes are good at fighting, right? And I know that seems really simplistic, and maybe to some extent it is, but the narrative coming in to both of these gentlemen's career last year was that they weren't very good at fighting, or that they had pretty defined ceilings. And then 2023, they did some big impressive things. Obviously, Sean Strickland becomes fighter of the year, but I certainly had the question with Strickland more than DDP. The way DDP had kept kind of going through it, I felt that at the minimum he could compete very long term, maybe not long term, but that this was less of a fluke. Whereas I was genuinely questioning whether Sean Strickland was going to be a Cody Garbrandt figure, a guy who gets to the title through, some pretty fortunate circumstances, has the best performance of his career, absolutely runs up a much more accomplished dominant champion, and then falls off. I thought that maybe that was in play. I wanted to see how Strickland sort of responded, and he put on a great fight. Is that everyone's favorite fight? Is this going to be fight of the year? No, but I thought it was a captivating fight. I can't wait to watch it back. I thought there were a lot of tactical decisions going on, and while some of the backlash certainly in, the big brain MMA bubbles is these dudes suck at fighting, I get how you get there because they're not pretty with it. They are not brilliant technicians in all respects, but what they are doing works very well for their game and ended up leading to what I thought was a compelling and fun fight. I have no issue with the score. I wouldn't have had any issue if you scored it for Sean Strickland. And my biggest takeaway is that, yeah, these two dudes are 2 of the 3 best middleweights in the world. And I'm excited to sort of see this rivalry, which I got really pumped about last year, and now feel somewhat vindicated that the fight was good, and we'll get a rematch at some point.
Shane, you're the one that brought up
you say 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
That's interesting. You say 2 of the 3 because to me it feels like there's a clear 4. So who you leaving out of the 3?
Who are you putting in your 4? I guess is the question.
Hamzat and Izzy is the other 2, right?
Yeah. So I'm somewhat intentionally leaving out Izzy. both as a jab and because I'm mostly just in putting Izzy and Hamzat at half. Like I'm not sure if either of them are there. Izzy obviously is extremely accomplished, but as somebody pointed out in our preview show, or not the preview show, the pre-fight Q&A, Izzy's lost 2 of his last 3. And yes, he beat Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira is sort of an anomaly, etc. I think Izzy's probably good and still at that elevated tier, but it also wouldn't shock me given his long fight career if he's past the prime now. I'm very certain that Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis are at the peak of their powers or still not yet to the peak of their powers. I think there's very much an argument that Izzy's past it. And Hamzat, I think, is also in that sort of bucket with DDP and Strickland, but I also just don't actually know how good he is at middleweight. So it's kind of weird to place them. It's an odd situation at 185 right now.
It's an odd situation, but as I sit here, I've been sitting around for the past couple hours trying to just process this, right? Trying to think about what are my big takeaways from this fight as I'm writing my column right now. And ultimately, I think I land in sort of the same place as you, Jed, that this fight alone tonight makes me more excited about where middleweight is and where middleweight is going. Because I said on the preview show, my biggest question coming into this was I didn't really know who was real amongst the sort of the headliners we had here with DDP, Sean Strickland, both of them, just like you said, coming into their last fight before this, right? We had very different perceptions of both of these men. I said it yesterday. DDP was like a meme fighter, very much so. He was very sloppy out there, but it was really fun always. And it was intriguing in a way, but there was an element of this isn't going to work at the highest levels. And then Sean, we knew who Sean was. He was the Apex guy. And then all of a sudden he has this incredible fight of the year, and we think of him completely different. So I really was curious, are both of these guys legitimate, right? Are both of these guys really at this level where we can very easily call them 2 of the best middleweights in the world? And dude, tonight was great. I really enjoyed tonight. I was super excited to see how this clash of styles would go. Two guys with very different kinds of forward pressure, but still very relentless forward pressure, suffocating pressure in and of itself, right? DDP, very much physicality, just the heavy hooks, the big swings of power, and then Sean Strickland with the march of the jab, the 1-2, the Philly shell defense. Both these guys just don't like to give an inch, and that was always going to be very intriguing with me. And the way it played out was a very fun chess match, man. I really enjoyed it. Again, I like Jed said, I don't know if this is going to end on some fight of the year list, but this was really intriguing for as long as it lasted. I had it ultimately 3-2 for DDP, where Strickland sort of bookended it with round 1 and round 5, and then DDP took all the sandwich rounds in between. But I mean, round 2 was incredibly close, right? So if you're out there saying,
so was round 3,
the top of the hills. Round 3 was a little bit more clear to me, but I could give you either of those, right? I wouldn't complain if anybody.
I think 2 and 3 are interchangeable to me. I wouldn't have any issue either side.
And so if you're out there saying that Sean Strickland got robbed or Sean Strickland should have won this fight, I'm not going to argue with you. There's a very clear and decisive way that you could have given it to Sean Strickland 3-2 as well. So this was just really fun, man. And it made my expectations for what middleweight will be moving forward, at least in 2024, rise a little bit, because I one of my big predictions coming into the year was not going on a limb or anything like that, but just that this is going to be a year of extreme volatility for 185, because that's just what tends to happen when we have these dominant champions who suddenly lose grip of their titles, right? Almost every time throughout UFC history, when you have a long reigning champion suddenly fade away, the clamor within the division, the struggle to sort of become that next guy is always really fun to me, because it's always just you dropped a bomb in the middle of something, and then all of a sudden you see and everybody try to figure it out. That's what we were sort of been left with since Alex Pereira injected his wizardry into all of this, right? This is 4 middleweight title fights in a row where the way we end up is not the way we started. The title ends up changing hands. I think we could stretch that number to 5 or 6 by the end of this year. This feels like this is not only the beginning of the story for the middleweight division of 2024, because hell, man, DDP's talking about turning around for UFC 300. He could fight Izzy or Hamzat in that fight. I think he could lose either of those fights, and then whoever wins that could lose again at the end of the year. We could just have so many different title changes throughout this year, but all of it is interesting, right? All of the different permutations of these matchups feel really worthwhile and worth exploring. And that to me is a really cool place to get to with 185, because it wasn't too long ago where we were looking at this division and we kind of were side-eyeing it kind of giving it that glance of like, man, I don't know what else is kind of good around here. And now this feels completely reinvented in a really fun way.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of dudes coming too. The Ikram Aliskerov, who unfortunately is no longer fighting UFC 298, but even like guys like Roman Kopylov is just folding foods, Brennan Allen, the Joe Pyfers, the Bo Nichols, those guys are all coming. They're all coming. And I think we could be seeing that sort of thing happen over the next few years, let alone just in 2024. And I guess like from a stylistic perspective, I guess I had two takeaways. One, just be a trier, because that's what DDP did. He kept trying things, and then he would just get closer to Shaun. Like, it seemed like he couldn't hit Shaun at all in the first round. He tried and threw spinning stuff and just threw as hard as he could, and Shaun was just peppered him, and DDP couldn't touch him. Round two, he was starting to he was still missing, but he was getting a little bit closer. Then he started to land a little bit more, and then round three, he started to really land, and he busted up Shaun a little bit, and that's just kind of, and the other thing, and I think this is one of my biggest questions heading in, nose job DDP is for real. Like, this is no longer a mythical creature. It's just an actual thing now. Because he seemed like the fresher guy. Like, heading out of round four, DDP looked like he could run a marathon. And I'm not saying Shaun was like gassing or anything, but he certainly looked like he was slowing down. And then, of course, Shaun comes out and just grits and bites down on the mouthpiece and does what you would expect a guy like Sean Strickland to do in round five. And he just threw hams, started landing the overhand right. And it was just a really interesting fight to watch. But yeah, the cards to me were, I knew we were going to Splitty City. I had no doubt about that, but I felt pretty good that DDP won round two. Round three, to me, I thought was the closest round, at least doing the watch party with everything going on. But I still ultimately gave it to DDP. I thought DDP clearly won round four, and then round five was a Strickland round. But yeah, 48-47 either way, I think is a fair card. I don't think there's any robbery here, but it's a pretty good fight. I mean, again, like you guys said, it's no Joanna Weili. It's just not, but
great fight though.
Still a good fight.
I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah,
same.
Edge of your seat kind of stuff, because I felt like we were all sitting there watching, like we felt like a big, huge moment was going to happen, and even though that it didn't, it was still really compelling to watch. So DDP, the new champ.
After you, Sheen.
I was just gonna also it's fun in these type of matchups to watch the adjustments being laid out, right? Because you were right in the first round, exactly. It was such a Sean Strickland round, and that felt like it was going to set the tone of what was very much going to be another Sean Strickland domination, and we would be having a big different conversation right now if that was how it played out. But DDP comes out, makes the adjustments for the second and third, and then it's just sort of that push and pull, that back and forth. Like, that was really fun, and also like, not for nothing, I know the takedowns didn't really do much, but they did open up the game a little bit more, it felt like, for DDP. And that's something that Sean Strickland just hasn't really dealt with that much at middleweight. Like, he's been taken down once his entire career since moving back to middleweight in 2020 after that motorcycle accident. That was against Abus, and he was down for like 23 seconds or 13 seconds or something like that. Like, it wasn't meaningful at all. But DDP really like kept mixing up, kept getting him down. He was never able to really hold him down, do much with it. But it was just throwing different wrinkles in there that mixed things up. Whereas Shaun is Shaun, right? Like, it seems like such a base level analysis to say that, but like, Sean Strickland's going to do what Sean Strickland's going to do, and he doesn't really change up the game that much. He's going to whether he's walking forward, staying, holding his ground, or going backwards, he's going to throw that 1-2. He's going to jab a ton. He's going to use that defense, and he's just going to be really awkward and evasive with it. Check a lot of those low kicks. Like, Sean Strickland's game plan is very effective, it seems like, against a lot of these guys at the highest level of the division, especially the way he sort of fine-tuned it over the past year or so. It's just that when you're fighting these power punchers like a DDP or even like a Jared Cannonier, right? You go back to the Cannonier fight that Shaun lost. It's the optics of it that are really almost not working for him, because it's like we said at the top, like if DDP is throwing these massive shots that maybe are not hitting all the way, but they have the optics of doing well, it's easier for a judge in real time to parse that than, you know, one or two jabs that are really quick and that land really nice, that even DDP afterwards was saying like, dude, it felt like I was getting hit by a rock. That type of thing. Like, that's harder for a judge to see than these big, massive hooks that seem to take everything that DDP's throwing at him.
Yeah. It was just a compelling watch. It really was. And then just like the psychology of the Toronto crowd. Like Strickland is Mr. Canada all week, and then by like round 4, we're getting DDP chants, and then like 10 seconds later, we're getting a Sean Strickland chant, and they were like turning the entire fight. It was just wild to watch, but great effort from both guys. What can you say? And DDP gets it done. And it seems like he wants to turn around for UFC 300. He looked pretty banged up. He even admitted as such. I wonder if it is going to be Izzy. I wonder if it is going to be Chimaev. But Dana White was back to his, well, we're not going to announce fights the day of the fight kind of thing. But he seems pretty confident by like next week, we're going to get an announcement here. So 1 to 10, Jed, confidence scale. Is DDP in the main event of UFC 300 after this win?
9. I think I was a bit ambitious when I said they'd announce it at the post fight, particularly after a fight like that. I think Dricus is going to take a couple of days. Maybe he has like a hand injury or something. He wants to get it x-rayed, but I think they'll take a couple of days. And the reason Dana said they'll announce it next week is they will know next week whether it's DDP versus Izzy or Izzy versus Pereira, because I think that those are the two things that are overwhelmingly likely to happen. So I still think it's a 9. I think DDP appeared to largely just have flesh wounds, like the face is marked up and that sucks, but that's not, going to really prohibit him too much from training and prep. And he can take a couple of days and then get right back in the gym and get ready to fight Izzy.
Are you at a 9, Shaheen?
I don't know if I'm at a 9, but I think I'm probably at like an 8, 7.5 or 8. Yeah, it feels like the middleweight division in some respect is going to be involved with this UFC 300 top of the card. I don't know if would you, Mike? Let me throw this at you because you're such a matchmaker, right? Like, do you think DDP where he is right now versus Hamza, if they can't get Izzy, is that a UFC 300 level main event? Because I don't know that I'm there for it fully. I don't know then if you just do the BMF fight as the main event, because obviously no one's going to complain about Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway. But
what the fuck is going on?
Oh, okay.
What is going on?
I don't. My internet's having some issues, though it's not registering as it does. So sorry if I interrupted that. I thought I got frozen out again.
It's all right. Yeah, I'm here. I think that would suffice, but I kind of feel like Izzy's going to be the guy. Because I think if he wasn't the guy, I think Dana would have at least ruled him out. I don't know if he wouldn't have match made it, but he would have been like, nah, Izzy ain't coming back to like July. But he's just kind of no selling everything at this point. So he just wanted to kind of get out of that press conference as quickly as possible. So last thing before we move on from this fight, because we kind of are on the same page with what goes on with DDP. Shaheen, I'll go to you because Jed and I were asked this during the People's Pre-Fight Show, essentially like who needs this one more, like who is more stung with a loss here? Is it DDP or Sean Strickland? And I made a pretty good case that it was DDP who needed it more because I feel like the road would have been a little bit longer for him to get back. Not saying he could never get back to a title shot, but the road to get back there, especially with all the names that we mentioned and the guys coming up, could be a little more tumultuous. While Sean is, I don't think he needs a belt right now. I just think he's so over. And I think in Sean's heart of hearts, he'll fight in Toronto. He'll fight at the TD Garden. He'll fight at Madison Square Garden. He'll fight at the Apex. He'll fight in my backyard. It doesn't matter. Sean is just down to clown at this point. So, and I think people will still want to see him. Where does Sean Strickland go from here? How much does this loss set him back, if anything at all?
I think it barely sets him back. Maybe financially it does, just because at that point you're not a champion, you're not getting pay-per-view points, right? Like his salary will certainly diminish a little bit after this fight. But other than that, like, I don't know, man, Sean Strickland's pretty minted right now in the MMA space. Like that dude is a top 5 star in the sport. The reception he's gotten over these last 2 pay-per-views has been extraordinary, especially from, very like crowds that are not the American crowd, right? Like Australia, Canada. This is not exactly the place you would think Sean Strickland would thrive, but like he clearly has a real following behind him, man. And I don't know that this was the type of performance that would dismay that at all. Like this wasn't Colby Covington going out there and just putting on the limpest performance you've ever seen for 25 straight minutes. Like this was a great fight. this is a great fight that Sean Strickland very easily could have won. And I think a lot of people feel like he did win. So I don't think this diminishes him at all. I think Sean Strickland right now, you throw him on any card, like he could be a pay-per-view headliner without even a title involved, because he's that level of star and that level of over right now in the MMA space. I would really challenge you to present to me 5 names that draw a bigger, I guess, swell of interest than a Sean Strickland fight right now, at least within this fan base, because we saw it all week. Like we've seen it in the metrics with everything we've been doing, all the content, like just in general, you get the pulse of the fan base on social media. Like people love this guy, man.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I assume you agree with that as well, Jed. Like, it's a setback. It sucks to lose. He loses out on a potential UFC 300 main event payday, which would have been pretty healthy, one would assume. But other than that, I think he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, even losing this way too, like a controversial split decision. A ton of people are very upset with it. You people are insane. Just it's okay. Like they're close decisions aren't robberies, guys. Like it's fine. Again, if Sean had won, also would have been a-okay. There's just a difference here. But the reason people are upset is because they're Sean Strickland fans and they wanted him to win, and they're looking at it through Sean Strickland glasses here. So yeah, I losing in this fashion, I think, you know me, I hate immediate rematches. I think the UFC probably would actually go for an immediate rematch in this instance, but for the fact that they clearly have some other plans lined up for what they want to do here. And so if Sean wants to take some time off, he's been super active. If he wants to say, hey, I'm going to take a few months off and simply wait for the Izzy DDP fight to play out, wouldn't shock me if he could just get an immediate title shot against the winner of that. If he wants to turn back around and fight, because he's Sean Strickland, I don't know if he could really headline a pay-per-view. He could maybe. He's clearly drawing interest in kind of the ways we follow it. I have absolutely no idea if that converts to being a pay-per-view draw. I guess the UFC will kind of tacitly let us know after this event, basically. But yeah, he's in as good a shape as you can be for having just lost a title fight.
I do wonder with a guy like Sean, if he's almost someone that like the belt kind of holds him back a little bit, right? Because he's a guy, we've seen him for years now. Like he gets itchy knuckles. He wants to fight often. He wants to take these late notice opportunities. He just wants to fight. He just wants to get paydays and keep marching forward and get out there in front of his fans. And like, I wonder if he is almost someone who, like, again, there are certain individuals within the sport, like, obviously being a champion is always good, but like that they can function really well without being a champion too, whether it's like a Nate Diaz or something like that. Sean Strickland feels like a guy in that mold to me now. Like Sean Strickland is now open to be able to take the random short notice fight, to be able to take, the opportunity that maybe he wouldn't as a champion. And maybe, and these are like, I don't know that they're less pressure spots, but they're spots to be more, I don't know, just more active, I guess, and keep his face sort of in the public lens and just keep this momentum going. Because obviously, like, tonight's not going to stop that momentum. We have a great sense of like how this is going, and like people love this guy, and I think they're going to continue to love this guy the more they see him, right? So I don't know. I do wonder if he's almost become that mold of the person who's almost better served not being champion, just because you get certain allowances at that point. But obviously, everybody wants to be champion.
Yeah. We'll see where he goes from here. Speaking of minted, gentlemen, the women's bantamweight division now minted. It is now run the queen of the mountain at 135, at least for right now. Raquel Rocky Pennington, second time is the charm Jed Meshew. She goes in there. And look, was this the greatest fight of all time? No. Was it probably better than we expected? Slightly. But I don't think you can really. Yeah, and I think Rocky went in there and tried to be fun. Now, were there some fight IQ questions with the striking and choosing to go against the fence a little bit longer? It actually kind of worked out for her because she almost got a submission in round 5, and I thought Mayra Bueno Silva actually tapped at a certain point in round 5, but Raquel Pennington went out there and just kind of beat that ass for the majority of this fight. Kind of a slow start. But once she sort of figured things out and was able to thwart a lot of MBS's offense, especially on the floor and against the fence, she just kind of beat her up for this fight. And this is a clear, dominant 49-46 win for me. Even a judge gave her a 10-8, 49-45 on one of the cards. How do you grade Raquel Pennington's championship winning performance here?
It was good. Look, this fight is way better than I would have assumed if you told me Raquel Pennington won the fight. I mean, I would never be so bold as to say that she tried to make this exciting. She willingly engaged in some real ugly clinch fighting for a long time, but she got the W. That's what matters. And I do think she was at least more compelling than she was against Ketlin Vieira or whatever. So, and I was totally fine with her pretty clearly stalling in the 5th round. And I say stalling because that's what it is, but like it's stalling that's allowable. She has that arm triangle and she is not trying to finish this. She is not doing the things to attack that like Daniel Cormier. And while he's commentating saying she should put a stamp on this, I am live blogging going, why in hell's name would she do that? Mayra Bueno Silva is not going to get out of this position. And Rocky just has to sit here for 2 minutes and she gets a championship. If she gets off to a side to try and finish this, something could happen. Like she was just hanging on, and that's fine in that position. I would have loved for her to just try and punch her a lot instead of going into clinches, but whatever. Congratulations to her. It is no small feat to win this, like to win a championship 10 years, I think, into her UFC career at this point. There aren't a lot of people that have done that. She is one of the few people to have won a title fight over the age of 35, under the weight class 170. So it's great. I do not want to shit on her, but that's about the extent of the nice things I have to say about this fight. So I'll just pass it to Shaheen.
Yes, please, Shaheen. Add the positivity.
Yeah, I don't even care to do that. I actually want to turn this back on y'all. Where's y'all's apology? Like, I've just been hearing about Mayra Bueno Silva from my entire staff on MMA fighting for like 6 months now.
Why would I apologize?
All of y'all proclaiming this woman to be the savior of women's bantamweight and that she's the #1 bantamweight in the world because she choked out Holly Holm. I need some kind of recompense from this. I've just been hearing this for 6 months and it's been driving me insane.
Let me tell you 2 things, Shaheen, and neither of them will be an apology. The first one is that if you
so badly wanted this to be a thing. You so badly wanted this to be
exactly, but I said that in our programming this week. I was like, I thought Reflex was like, MBS will win. And then as I watched it, I was like, I kind of think Raquel Pennington is going to win, but I'm going to ignore that because I want to manifest a good and happy world. And if MBS is a champion, at least there's a chance that a finish and something fun can happen. That didn't work out. All of my powers were used to get DDP a title. Sorry, I couldn't do it for women's bantamweight. The second thing is you come at us and are like, why are you guys saying this woman's the best because she beat Holly Holm? Well, because I'm going to tell you right now, Shaheen, if they booked Raquel Pennington versus Holly Holm tomorrow, you know who I'm picking? It's not the current champion of the world. Like one of these people at least beat Holly Holm confidently as opposed to losing to her. It's just 135 is going to be in a weird place for a real long time now. And that's why I sound the way I do. I'm just resigned to this being the light heavyweight of women's MMA. Sure, once upon a time, it was a good and meaningful weight class. Those days are gone, and now it's just kind of weird. Okay.
That's it? No response?
You're talking to Shane.
No, I'll accept that.
I told him I wasn't apologizing. I refuse to apologize.
All right, I'll accept that.
That's fine. Would you pick
I
Raquel Pennington to beat Holly Holm?
No, absolutely not. We've seen that.
Exactly. So us believing that the woman who tapped out Holly Holm, we chose to believe, Shaheen. We had childlike wonder inflate our souls to believe that maybe 135 won't be an abyss of fun and excitement. And we were wrong, and I will never apologize for that.
You Jake Matthews her. You Jake Matthews her, and I will not let you.
I will apologize for Jake Matthews, but you were on Jake Matthews with me. Hand up.
I wasn't on this one, though.
No, you weren't on this one. That's absolutely true. Really glad I didn't pick her in our draft. I'd be feeling tough right now.
So I have 2 thoughts about this, and I want I want to start with the good, right? Because I like Jed. I don't like to be the person who's going to crap on someone's moment, because I don't feel like that's my style. Like, I'm more of a good vibes type of guy than the bad vibes type of guy. So like that feels like the proper place to start, because Raquel Pennington is someone who is basically one of the longest tenured women fighters in the UFC at this point, right? Like, she is 11 years deep in this. She's been here since 2013. She has paid her dues, 17 fights, 12 wins. She's got wins over like real good people, right? Misha Tate, Jessica Andrade, Irene Aldate, Roxanne Modafferi, Ketlin Vieira, now Mayra Bueno Silva. Like, this is someone who has put in the work, and she essentially outlasted Amanda Nunes to be able to seize this window at age 35 in a way that, like, you know, it was kind of like the game. It was like, who's going to outlast Amanda and who's going to be there to pick up the scraps once she's gone. It was Raquel Pennington, oldest female champion in UFC history. She is as deserving as anybody could be to hold what's left of this belt and sort of reign over what's left of this division. And that's about all I have in terms of the good takeaways from this, because I said on the preview show,
we don't need bad. We're good.
But I mean, I said on the preview show, I kind of predicted exactly how this fight was going to go. And now I just wonder, and I we don't need to doom too much. We don't need to get into the doom saying too much, but like, is anybody outside of the Pennington household excited about this? Like, what is this? Where are we going with women's 135? Because aside from Julianna Pena, because God bless her, she tries, there isn't a single person alive in this division right now who could conceivably drum up interest for any of the matchups at the top of this division right now that could be made. And I know MBS was supposed to be that person. She was the fresh blood. She was the heir apparent. She was the newcomer who'd sort of inject some life into this, what seems to feel like a dying division. Y'all, if I asked you right now, how many women in the UFC top 15 rankings at bantamweight are under the age of 30, what do you think the answer is?
One.
Yeah, one or two.
Have you looked at this up? Because it is exactly
I have
one.
not. I was going to say, I have not. It might be zero. I was between 0 and 1. But I was like pretty confident, because my next point was about to be like, and here's the real problem, Sheen. There are no reinforcements coming. There is no help on the horizon. The thing.
There is exactly one. It's Carol Hossa, who's 29. Other than that, there is nobody. And so it's just like,
I actually
what's the
wouldn't
future?
have even gotten that right. I would have thought it was Macy Chase.
So. I just like, I don't see a future here. Like, I don't see any excitement in the next couple of years here. I don't really know what the move is for women's 135. And it's like, you don't want to just crap on a whole division like this, but it's bleak, man. It's real bleak. And like, I don't know, are we just going to get a rotating series of Raquel Pennington and Julianna Pena title fights over the next couple of years? Because like, that's what it feels like. If I'm every viable flyweight in the world right now who's not in the immediate pecking order of like, you're going to get a title shot in your next 1 or 2 fights, I am moving up to 135, because the queue to fight for the title at 135, to fight for a UFC title at 135 is so much shorter than it would be at 125, where you have all these names lined up at 125 who are ready to get theirs. At 135, that just does not exist. So if you're in that middle ground in those rankings at flyweight, dude, I would take a good hard look at moving up, because you are one fight away from challenging for this title, and you might actually get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Valentina Shevchenko should immediately stop trying to fight Alexa Grasso. I would just be like, yep, Alexa can have it. I don't even care anymore. Like, whatever, it's fine. I'm just gonna go pursue this now, because shout out to Jose Youngs, who I think it was him and not AK. One of the two of them asked this, and I didn't realize this until they said it. But they asked at the post-fight presser, they asked Pennington, after Pena, who are you gonna fight? Like, because all of the people in the top 10 you've already fought, are you cool just doing rematches? And then that's when I realized that she's fought like 7 of the women in the top 10, not including herself in this category. Like, there's nothing. There's no hope. There's no help coming. Certainly if she gets past Pena, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Maybe Amanda comes back.
Flyweight's got to save this. Otherwise, Holly Holm is getting this title shot, baby.
Shaheen, this is why we hoped for Mayra Bueno Silva, and we failed.
We did. So we'll get Raquel Pennington, Julianna Pena. The 13-year rivalry, according to Pennington, will finally be settled. and then we'll see where we go from there. We need the Melissa Dixons of the world to move up the ranks real quick.
Let's go, Nora. Come on.
real quick to inject some life. But I do like the idea. Like if Macy Barber goes out there, just runs Caitlin Chukagian, like she should just immediately go to 135 because Pena already is like memeing her and all that stuff. Like she'd probably get a title shot like right away. If she just made the decision to go to 135, she'd probably get a title shot if she beats Chukagian. So at least we have a champion. We'll see where it all goes. But Raquel Pennington done. Congratulations to her. Neil Magny, the wily veteran, with the last.
What
second.
About this though?
Oh, please.
I just had an idea because this is the type of thing that I would kind of hate, but feels very much in play, right? So I think we are all on Team Erin Blanchfield. She's about to dust up Manon Fiorot. That's just going to happen. But we still don't know what's going on with Grasso Shevchenko. If the UFC is like, hey, we're going to do this at the Noche card, and you two are just going to be on ice until September, which would be stupid, but hell, they might do it. If they do that, then Blanchfield will be like, I'm going to have to wait until next year for a title shot. F that. Let me go to 135. Are we interested?
Dude, I threw this out months ago. Months ago.
But now,
and you crapped on the idea.
Well, that's because I had hoped for a better future, but now we're in the bad timeline, Shaheen. So I'm looking for escape ropes.
I mean, that is 4,000% what Erin Blanchfield should do. Because I actually do suspect that they're holding this title fight for Noche.
That would be the worst idea I've ever heard.
Well, especially if Moreno loses. Moreno's not going to lose, but if he does, then it's a guarantee.
That's true. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Neil Magny, which is cool.
Yeah. What a comeback win.
Though this is the darkest timeline for Canada.
Oh, man. Yeah. Tough night for Canada for the most part.
Took it on the teeth.
For the most part. Yeah. Great win for Neil Magny. He was about to lose, and then he got all crazy and finished Mike Malott. Tremendous performance in the last couple of minutes of that fight. Gets the finish with 15 seconds left in the entire bout and gets the job done. Neil Magny just flip-flopping wins and losses, and that streak continues on. Chris Curtis, that fight was that was tough. That is why there is a middleweight title, is because of that fight. Now, the last couple of minutes were fun. Rest of it was just looked like a friendly sparring session that was not all that thrilling. Movsar Evloev, Arnold Allen was pretty fun, and Movsar Evloev gets a big win, beats Arnold Allen, and he's probably going to get a title shot now. So we could react to, I'll throw this to you, Shaheen. You can react to any of those things I talked about, but outside of DDP, who is obviously the headline here, who's the low-key MVP of UFC 297? Is it any of the names I mentioned, or is it someone like Jazz Davisius, who just beat the soul out of poor Priscilla Cachoeira tonight?
Oh, you stole my thunder. I was going to go that route. But first, I want to go that route. But first, I just want to say the Arnold Allen thing was kind of like it's kind of a bummer to me that we're probably just going to be talking about the knees in the Allen Evloev fight. Because, like, I know that Canada has different rules, and like the fact that Canada has different rules than any other place is just inherently stupid. And the way that these grounded knees rules work is just generally stupid. And like all of this is just built for stupidity, because you're putting referees like Mark Goddard into like this spot where they're thrust into a split-second decision where they kind of need to make a judgment call that, at least in this case, like might have significant ramifications, considering a title shot might have been on the line. And like, dude can't do it with the use of without replay, right? Because it's in the moment. Felt like that was the momentum swing in that third round with those knees. It's tough. Arnold Allen's luckily young enough where I feel like he's going to get another shot at this, and hopefully him and Evloev can fight it sometime again down the line. But that fight was awesome. I just wish it had left a better taste in my mouth. But yeah, I mean, if you talk about an MVP, the MVP of all of this is Priscilla Cachoeira, man. Because I say this with 100% sincerity. The UFC could last another 200 years, and I don't know that we are going to ever see anybody put together a legacy as majestic as what this woman has done in 6 years. Because like this is probably the end, right? I just like this is probably the end. I would never fire her. Dude, I got to imagine that this is the end. I was going through it. I was just trying to rack up a list of like, what have we seen from Priscilla Cachoeira over 6 years? And like it got to the point where it was so long that I had to just like it wasn't enough space. There wasn't enough space in the column to keep doing it. There's the eye gouges, there's her disrobing opponents, there's just omnipresent cheating in every possible fight, in every kind of way that you could do it. There's positive drug tests, there's wins that were very controversial that she should have won. There's multiple weight misses. And then you kind of just look at the way it's bookended, right? First fight she comes in the UFC, 230 strikes to 3 in favor of Valentina Shevchenko. Historic beatdown. One of the worst beatdowns we'd ever seen. Last fight in the UFC, probably. 326 versus 26. Just a masterpiece, man. Masterpiece. Striking futility at its absolute worst. Minus 300. Minus 300 in striking differential. That is the largest in the history of the women's UFC divisions. She now has the largest and the third largest. Like, reading all of this back, it's incredible to me that all of this has existed for one person. You could do this career over and over again, and you would never get this same kind of result. 6 months ago, I called her this generation's Husserl powerhouse, but like, she was more than that, man. Like, this is a true one of one type of career that we are looking at, and I am just so thankful for it because, like, sure, she's probably the owner of the belt, the Pal Harris belt right now, like the worst cheater in MMA and the worst cheater of this era. But she is something more than that to me, guys. She was able to guarantee that every bad undercard that she was on, at least something interesting was going to be happening. And like, for that, I thank her, because not a lot of people in this space can do that. Priscilla Cachoeira, you were the best. Thank you for existing within this space for 6 years.
I would never
Jed,
fire her.
Please explain why.
I mean, I've been on this tip for years, Mike. You know it. I feel like I'm the first person to bring this idea to MMA of you need Priscilla Cachoeiras out there. Like, if I were running an organization, I would sign her immediately, because it is a skill to win fights and to be exciting, etc. It's also a skill to get your ass beat in a way that is compelling. And buddy, she has it. She is tough enough to withstand a sustained ass whooping, but bad enough to not be able to stop it whatsoever, to just be on the receiving end of getting that work. She is the Washington Generals of MMA. And you know what? Washington Generals been employed for 50 some odd years, however the hell long the Globetrotters been going on. And that relationship has worked quite fine. I would run Priscilla Cachoeira out there 3 times a year against somebody I'm trying to give shine to. Priscilla's job would be, by definition, hey, we got somebody we still kind of like who's in a slump right now, needs a confidence boost, and can shoot a takedown. Because once you're on the floor, you are going to present zero resistance. I was trying to pull this together sort of haphazardly. She is giving, like, so against Jasmine, 81% of Jasmine's strikes landed. Something similar has happened in all of the fights she has lost, basically. And if you look at the UFC's like stat leader book, the stat accuracy record is Alistair Overeem at 74%. Fighting her makes you Alistair Overeem. Like, keep this woman around forever. Why would you ever fire her? There's no sense in it.
What a case. What a case indeed, Jed. Well,
throw her against Raquel Pennington. Throw her against Raquel Pennington right now. Let Raquel Pennington go out there.
Raquel's getting the stoppage. I don't know if she's getting the stoppage, though. Might be 25 minutes of an ass beating. That's tough.
Maybe her and Melissa Dixon at 135. You know, something crazy and weird's going to happen in that fight. And there's a very real chance that she gets put in a similar position against someone like Melissa Dixon.
I'm just saying, anytime you've got a fighter coming off back-to-back losses who, like, was a prospect, like Casey O'Neill right now. You know what Casey O'Neill needs? She needs some Priscilla Cachoeira in her life. Just get the mojo back, stun on a girl, and feel good. And we just keep doing this forever.
You make a great case.
Plus, I also think by this same measure, she's like the perfect gatekeeper, where if you lose to her, you should just be cut. It will just get rid of you. You're done. Sorry, Aaron Lipsky. That's a tough one.
That is true. I will add to your case too. I almost like I'm still kind of curious to see other ways she can figure out how to cheat. She's very good at gaming the system and just figuring out new ways that I've never really seen before for a fighter to cheat. So like, yeah, like if this is what it takes, like we're gonna just keep this going, and maybe she could think of something really, really interesting that I just never thought about in terms of cheating methods.
Yeah, I mean the doors are opening wide for fun and excitement and absolute weirdness, and Priscilla Cachoeira personifies all of those things. So let's bring Casey in. Let's take a few questions. It's almost 4:30 in the morning here on the East Coast. So, Casey, much respect to you for being here.
Yeah, how you doing?
Casey's right in the earliest. It's like 1:30 there. That sounds nice.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I think Israel Adesanya just tweeted as well.
The arc in my story was written long ago. Our paths are destined to cross again. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for watching. That is from Israel Adesanya.
I assume that's
like
in
he wants
DDP.
DDP.
Yep.
I
it.
think that's what's going on. There's a blurry picture from 2017 of some dude rocking a high guard, which I would guess is DDP, but I don't really know.
We shall find out. Which Canadian lost the most tonight? Tough day for definitely the male Canadian fighters. The female fighters delivered. Jasmine with the record-setting beatdown. Jillian Robertson goes out there and gets a pretty brutal finish in round 2, but all the men come up on the wrong end of things here. Shaheen, I'll start with you. Which Canadian lost the most tonight?
I do confirm that is DDP in those in the videos that Izzy posted. So he's very.
Those are videos. I didn't click them.
Yeah, it was a trio of videos of them. So which Canadian lost the most tonight? That's a good question, considering the male Canadian fighters went 0-7, I believe, which is real impressive. I don't, Jed, you're in the betting world. Did anybody jump on the anti-Canada parlay?
Nope, would have been very large. Several of the non-Canadians were underdogs, as you can imagine. Like Neil Magny was one of the biggest underdogs on the card. Would have been an enormous parlay to go the anti-Canadian men parlay.
Someone in the comments, please total up to me what a $10 bet on the anti-Canadian parlay would have done, because I would. I mean, I'm very curious. Who lost the most? I don't know if that anybody lost a significant amount, but just in terms of who lost the most in the short term, probably Mike Malott, right? Just in the sense of like he was ready to get the rocket ship strapped to his back. Like if he had won this fight impressively, I think that dude is fighting like a Stephen Thompson or something next, and he is just like starting to get talked about as a potential guy in the way that we talk about Ian Gary at 170. And now, Neil Magny, I said it on Twitter, but like this is why this dude is one of the goat gatekeepers, the goat keeper, if you will. Credit to Susie Kuzi for that. That's tremendous. That's tremendous. But like, this is what those dudes are for, right? Like the term gatekeeper gets like a really bad rap in combat sports. And I can understand, right? If that's sort of where your career is, you don't want to be called that, but like, it's a very important
honorable
job.
Professional.
It's a very, very important job. And it's a job that you can make a multi-decade career out of, just like Neil Magny has, because this was it. This was exactly it. The dudes that beat Neil Magny are the people we then have to care about, and the people that don't are not quite ready yet. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Gary, they beat Neil Magny. Now they are real like players in this division. I'm sorry, Mike Malott didn't, and so now he has to go back to the back of the line and he has to figure it out. And like he still has plenty of time to do that, but like that is what this is for. This was to me very akin to Gunnar Nelson coming in against Damian Maia at UFC 1 at 94, and then Damian Maia just be like, nah, son, not yet, not quite yet. Like you gotta love the old guys who can just say, not today, young fella, and that was really cool to watch for me. I found that pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot to that too, because Mike, like we talked about earlier, was winning. He won both rounds, was about to win the fight, and then he just kind of ran out of gas, and Neil just pounced on him and beat him up.
I've never
got
seen
the finish
a man
when he
fall
needed
off
it.
a cliff that hard.
It
Was wild.
Did I miss something? Did I miss a big hit or something? 'Cause I know he went for that guillotine and he kind of slammed him out of the guillotine.
It's a phone battery. Like, your phone battery has no flex. When you get to the end of it, you're done, and that's it. He had 14 minutes and then not a second more. It's tough.
And that's the
Tough
thing.
scenes.
That's why Neil Magny is such a perfect person for this role, because he is never going to let you take it. Like, he's not going to gift you the stepping stone that is like his name on your resume. You got to take it from him. And Mike Malott did that for 14 minutes, but he didn't finish the job. So there you go. You go back.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Jed?
Yeah, I will also add that Gatekeeper's a great job. Where would we be without gatekeepers? You know what happens when you don't have gatekeepers? Fucking Rome falls. So yeah, it's a fine job. Don't be up in your feelings that you're the gatekeeper. If you don't want to be a gatekeeper, don't do gatekeeper shit. Like, win titles. And then no one has ever called any champion a gatekeeper. So that's a you issue. I think I'll just be different. I'll go with another one, because while Mike Malott certainly lost a lot, his opportunity cost is the biggest, I think, of the things he lost. Johan Liness lost his job tonight. I think that man's gone. So I'm going to say he lost the most, because I think all of the other Canadian men will probably stick around, either because it was a split decision or Mike Malott, he has some popularity in Canada, obviously. They can keep going there. Johan Liness is not good. He did not look good, and he has lost like 3 of 4 fights in the UFC. I think he's getting walking papers.
He looks so bad. The UFC didn't even reward Patterson anything, because that should have got
Correct.
50K, but he just looked so bad. He was like, that was too easy. I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah, no.
Right.
It's like when we don't give the coolest shit like KO or submission of the year because it happened in like a barnyard in the Caucasus Mountains. And we're like, I mean, yes, that is an absolutely sick flying omoplata, but it also happened against someone who's terrible. So whatever. Same thing.
Yeah. Great choices. I'll go a little different as well. The Derek Zoolander of the UFC, it is Charles Jourdain, the man who went up and accepted his Model of the Year award only to find out that somebody else
I forgot
was making
that
the
happened.
acceptance speech. It's Charles Jourdain. The man, like, emotionally thought he won when Bruce Buffer, I don't think he said Sean Woodson. I don't think he said Charles Woodson. I think he said Sean, the sniper Woodson. And he was up there like celebrating, and I'm watching him just celebrate. And I'm like, it's pretty clear he didn't win. And then poor Daniel Cormier had to break the news that Charles lost. And now he's like a meme forever. It's tough night for Charles Jourdain. He clearly lost that fight. Actually, it was a splitty, which I was really surprised at. And then to have that all happen, and then to find out in the post-fight interview with the guy who actually won that you didn't win, man, what an emotional roller coaster ride it was for Charles Jourdain. So he might have lost the most tonight, because I think this moment's going to be one we remember for a little while.
Wait, and for the record, Buffer and the ref didn't mess up, right? It was just, he just wanted to hear his name and he heard it.
No one messed up. Yeah, no one messed up. It was
I think that's what confused
really
everyone.
weird and loud.
That's so funny.
Hearing
so
AK and Jose talk about it, they said that it was really loud in there and that it was like hard to hear things because of the crowd, and that he elongated the Sean so maybe it sounded like Charles.
Yeah.
Also, just real quick, main card minute over there in the comments, crushing it, helping us out. The bet against all male Canadians, plus 45,000.
Oh my God. That's
45
4
to
grand.
85. That is a lot of money. I hope somebody did that.
Yep, there it is. Plus 45 to 85. Jeez.
Jed, you run a gambling program. Why didn't you advise me to do this?
Because I think Connor and I were more interested in doing a gimmick bet on all the Canadian fighters. Connor actually may have ended up doing it. I had a Mike Malott parlay that I tagged on with Connor, and that didn't work out. But yeah, no, I would never have gone the anti-Canadian parlay.
What was your big?
What? Sorry.
What was your biggest shocker that night? Like, you're like, I just didn't see that coming at all.
None, because like I was pretty prepared for any outcome. I didn't feel like deeply confident in any of my stuff this week. It was just like, something could happen. I get like not even a betting thing. I'm pretty surprised Dricus won a decision. Like, that's probably the most surprising thing. I thought if he was going to win, it would be a finish, but not how that ended up going.
Oh, when like I said earlier, when the press conference, when they started saying to the death, all this stuff, I was like, oh, this fight's going to decision. We've had it out.
Should have. Well, I just took that away as I was like, when Sean said it, I was like, yeah, okay, you do this every time, and then you don't.
Yeah.
It's the same way Izzy's like, I'm a vampire, I'm going to eat you. And by eat you, I mean tepidly kick at your legs while staying at least 5 feet away from you at all points in time. It's like, okay, well, that's what's
Izzy's
happening.
just taking strays. Izzy, what?
Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Vampire, I'm
Oh
going
my
to eat
God.
you. Jared Cannonier, I would like to not stand anywhere close to you for 25 minutes.
Dana said that the Evloev versus Allen fight sucked the air out of the arena. That was one of the better fights. Did he really say that?
Yeah, I
I
was
wasn't listening.
Oh, you weren't listening to the Dana? Okay, I thought he
I
was
was writing.
misspeaking. I thought Dana was misspeaking and confused it with the Curtis fight for some reason.
Yeah,
Because
it
I
had
That
to
was
make
my
more
takeaway too. Because that was
He was-
Evloev Allen was fun, man.
I know, because I was like, that fight ruled. That fight ruled. I loved it.
The
Can we
scrambles in
also
that fight
just
were awesome.
very quickly shout out Chris Curtis and to an extent Raquel Pennington. I love when it's obvious to me that fighters don't watch fighting in their free time. When Chris Curtis is like, I don't know what y'all wanted. That was very hard. We tried. There's a difference between you physically trying really hard, which I get it, is difficult, and people enjoying watching it. Clinch fighting is tough as shit. It's miserable to train pummeling against the wall. It's also deeply uninteresting to a vast majority of viewers. And you got to accept that and not get kind of like angry that the fans aren't stoked about it. This is part of the game,
Yeah.
guys. Chris
Like,
Curtis was, with his real passive aggressive, was admittedly funny, but also like, I think we understand why that wasn't the most exciting fight ever.
Eric Nixick was the MVP of that fight. His cornering work during that fight was tremendous. Tremendous.
Dude, Nixick is a really good coach. His cornering work was quite good in the main event as well.
Yep, completely agree.
Where we at? Did you see the comments from Sean about the headbutt? Sean Strickland?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that.
Yeah, I don't know if you
Wouldn't
want
shock
to
me if it was true.
speak about that. I didn't really
Wouldn't
understand
shock
it, so I'm not sure.
It
It
seemed
what
like the
it wouldn't shock me if
shot
that was
that
true.
split him open was a punch though. Like I didn't.
They showed the replay of like a jab doing that, like a straight right hand. I'm trying to remember.
I thought it was like
They-
a right
they did
hand
the-
that split him
Yeah,
open.
they did like the little box in the corner, and they showed the slow mo, and they said, "Oh, that's what it was." But they certainly didn't show a headbutt, or I mean, at least I don't get to hear the broadcast full on it because we just have it in the earpiece, so we faintly hear it. I don't remember them mentioning anything about a headbutt. And you would
They
think
didn't mention
because-
anything about a headbutt, and we didn't
Yeah.
see anything. Again, it wouldn't totally shock me if one did occur, because certainly in like once we got into rounds 4 and 5, a lot of herky-jerky weirdness was happening in exchanges, and so maybe one of those, like maybe there was a clash of heads that opened something up, but
Sure.
that's,
But also,
that's
like
just
round
fighting.
5 was Sean's more or less best round, right? Like either 1 or 5, but he
Yeah.
was really good in round 5. Like he was coming on strong. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say with
It's
the
just
DDP leg thing, the DDP leg thing, like Sean Strickland checked a lot of that man's kicks. That's gonna make
he
you
did.
limp. He checked a lot of those kicks, man. Sean Strickland's ability to check these low kicks is pretty nuts. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm always impressed by Sean's vision. How you can just scan up with such an upright stance, just scan up and down and
Yeah,
be
man.
very successful in leg checks. So we're like I physically like every time like DDP got checked, like that thud it makes.
Yeah.
Like
That's
for
what I
a
liked
second, he
about
became.
DDP.
I was
Go
just gonna
ahead,
say, for a second, he became somewhat of a meme fighter just because of the way he got so badly knocked out by Alex, right? But like Sean Strickland, low key, is like really one of the toughest defensive fighters in the UFC right now. Like he's very interesting to watch, just play defense the whole time.
Actually, I have a question for you, Sean. I want to ask you. Coming into this, we both had we were wondering this. Is this going to legitimize Strickland or DDP? Did this fight do that for you? You remember
100%.
coming into this fight,
Yeah.
what we talked about? Yeah, did it fulfill that expectation for both of them?
100%. No, 100%. That goes back to what I was saying at the top of just like that was the biggest question for me is like was both of this for real? what we saw last year. And I think that's very clear now that it is, that these two dudes are just this good, and this division is sort of this good, and everybody can beat anybody on a given night. And that's really fun to me. Like, I love that. I love that sort of dynamic within a weight class like this after a long reigning champion. So absolutely, 100%.
Agreed. Anything else, or?
I'm talking myself into the idea that Dricus du Plessis could maybe hold this belt for a minute.
I just think he loses to Khamzat.
He's a really interesting fighter, and I think he is a fighter that is doomed to never get credit because his issues are so glaring. But what he's bringing to bear in this fight, because like that was the thing to me about this fight that was impressive, is he came out and he lost the first round, a round that I thought he would be better prepared for, because that is one thing he's been very good about. And then he sort of immediately adjusted. And you're right, he was checking like Shaun was checking the kicks. Strickland started feinting kicks to then set up combinations, because then that pulls Shaun's leg up, and so he's standing on one base. He started throwing just in combination a lot more, which is really good for getting past Shaun's defense, which is all hand parries and then pivoting back. Like, he just made a bunch of really good adjustments that paid dividends. And when you pair the fact that he is capable of, like, he's very good at scouting ahead of time, because he totally nailed the strategy on this fight, which was just press forward. Like, that was the broad strategy of the fight. Nailed it, did it. In-game tactics, clear physicality, like that's a hard combination to beat. And it won't shock me if Israel Adesanya just, toreadors him around for 5 rounds and can do it. But DDP's got a lot of Yoel Romero in him, and I think that's why I love the shit out of him, like, as a fighter, because Yoel Romero is one of my favorite fighters of the past 10 years, because the way he fought was so weird, but it all worked. DDP has got a lot of Yoel in him, and that can be really damn tricky to deal with.
He's got a lot of Yoel in him, just in that regard, but also the physicality, right? Just because he's so overwhelmingly physical in a way that few middleweights are. But he also is just like much more aggressive than Yoel ever was. Like, third round Yoel was a thing because that was when he would sort of turn it on. Like, DDP goes from go.
Exactly. He's the next one. And like, even when he gets tired, because that was one of the questions I had, was if he could do it over 5 rounds, not because I didn't think he could, but because what we saw him do in his career is he would get tired and then just fight while tired. I was like, can he do that for 25 minutes? And then he actually got less tired than normal. So yes, he could do that. He is not as athletic as Yoel Romero, who's one of the 3 most athletic people that's ever competed in the sport. But he is athletic. He's super physical. He has the same sort of mind and like tactical acumen. And he is also bringing a different, better layer. Like, that's just going to be really fucking hard to deal with over 25 minutes anytime you fight him. It's going to be really tough.
I agree with you.
Yeah, him and Khamzat is interesting.
Him and Khamzat's going to be so damn fun, because that's two rhinos just hitting each other until one of them stops. It's just a car crash.
I'll pick DDP to beat Izzy today. Like, if that matchup gets made tomorrow, I think DDP probably wins that fight. It's still like, I don't know where Izzy is sort of in his career, but just stylistically, like, it feels like he's really uncomfortable with a fighter like DDP. But man, like, I don't know anybody. I don't know if the DDP, I'm gonna run at you like a rhino, works against Khamzat, because I just don't feel like you're gonna be able to out wrestle that guy and like really frighten that guy in the pressure situations like that. Like, but I would love to see it. That's the thing. Like, I want to see that.
I watched Gilbert Burns compete physically with Khamzat Chimaev, and granted the circumstances are a little different, but I have to imagine that DDP is bringing more physicality to bear than Gilbert Burns is at that time. Like, I am deeply fascinated by that fight as well. Like, again, I wouldn't install DDP as a big favorite over just about anybody, but I think I'm putting him as a favorite over anyone. Like,
I'd be so curious to know what the betting line is. I would be very curious to know the betting line, the Khamzat line, because he's just, because like also there's like a public sentiment
minus
element
250
of it too, right?
Khamzat, I bet.
Oh, so you don't think DDP would be favored over him?
I think Khamzat would be the favorite. Khamzat's just a deeply fan favorite fighter, and the way he has fought has been so spectacular. I think probably.
Let me see if they actually put some sort of.
Also, though,
one of my most anticipated fights of the year.
Tonight, you'd probably say after tonight, DDP clearly has the gas tank advantage over him.
But considering how close this fight was and how it could have gone to Strickland, what would you pick with Strickland versus Khamzat right now, based on Strickland's performance tonight?
I was thinking about that after this. I would still pick Khamzat. I do not have a ton of confidence in it. I am still of the belief that Khamzat is such a predatory grappler that he could get you down and have more success. To the same extent, I also believe DDP when he says that he was not really focused on positional control. I don't think he was. I think those takedowns were largely a way to mix things up and try to mitigate the teeps, which were a huge issue for him. And they did that. Like, that was a very effective tactical attack. I think if he wanted to keep Sean Strickland down, I don't know if he could, but I think he could put forth a better effort. I think Khamzat will want to keep you down. And until I see someone say no, I'm just going to believe Khamzat can do that.
Maybe that's what we see. We'll find out after the matchmaker meeting.
That would be sick if they did Strickland versus Khamzat for a title eliminator.
Yeah,
like, that would just be cool.
I'm cool with that.
Super into that.
That's what I was thinking. And then DDP versus Izzy, and then the winner faces the winners, and everything's awesome.
Just keep making
four-man
this
tournament
bracket.
Pretty much
4-man tournament.
It's right there.
We already did get a 4-man tournament with Rob, Izzy, Strickland, and DDP. And as we all predicted, DDP ended up winning that 4-man tournament. So now let's do another one.
I like it.
I love it.
I like it. We good?
It's fun, guys.
It is.
Let's keep Marvin Vettori out of this conversation.
See, this is what we need to do to enhance divisions. We need to create fake titles that kind of like frown upon the division, but then make them special, and then that in turn will make the rest of the division want to fight even harder. I mean, middleweight title. Look at what it's done for Brendan Allen in his career, and look at what it's done for this entire division. So maybe we need to do a women's bantamweight title to pick that division back up.
I think that's just the bantamweight title.
I think that's the whole division.
Fair. Well, UFC 297 is in the books. Next time we do a post-pay-per-view show will be February 17th or the early hours of February 18th. UFC 298, which looks like a lot of fun on paper. And then we get to 299, then we get to 300, and things are going to ramp up. I have a feeling the overall flow. Yeah, I have a feeling the overall flow of these next few pay-per-views are going to be much different than UFC 297 was. But
are you guys excited about 3 back-to-back middleweight headliners? Because our next 2 apexes are led by middleweights.
You're darn right they are. You're darn right. That's how we cement a division.
It's a fun
but
division.
thank you all for watching.
It's a fun division.
It
They
is.
say variety is the spice of life. Let's not have any of that. Thank you very much.
So is a good night's sleep. Good night, everybody.
Love it.